This is an autobiographical poem, and it's all true. It's about phobias. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Aunt Lois liked to drive as the crow flies, tearing across Pittsburgh, crossing suspension bridges, lifting her hands from the wheel, raising her eyes from the road, exclaiming, "They cheer me," meaning the bridges, while my white-knuckled fingers clutched the seat of her pre-seatbelt Volvo, and I felt sick and dizzy at the prospect of dropping down into the Monongahela or the Allegheny, or gazing up at the spinning catenaries of the bridge. I knew we'd never arrive at Gimbel's, where Aunt Lois promised to buy me a warm robe and suitable underwear for my freshman year at college. I have a fear of bridges, inherited from my father, who required an escort of state police, cars stationed fore and aft, so we could cruise the long expanse of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. Otherwise, we'd never get home, never cross that bridge to which we'd come. On September 11th, 2001, my colleagues and I were stranded in Washington, D.C., once home and safety for me, but never again. I wanted only to flee. We were able to wrangle a rental car to make our 2-day journey back to Oklahoma, taking turns driving. My turn came the second morning, leaving Memphis to cross the Mississippi into Arkansas. My hands were slick on the steering wheel, the going slow, my eyes fixed on the bumper ahead, or sometimes closed to avoid looking over the side or across the muddy plain of the river. My friends never guessed about my dreams. Many nights my task has been to drive across a narrow bridge. Sometimes my pedaling feet are all that propel the car, a flimsy shell against the elements. Sometimes the water beneath me rises, submerging me. Then the bridge might twist and soar, but always the bridge ends, suspended above an abyss into which I must plunge, or else awaken with a startled heart. But last night in my dream, I could see a pastel town gleaming in the twilight, a Ferris wheel turning slowly on the horizon, neon lights blinking, fireworks exploding silently, and faint music wafted my way. I was driving across the Mississippi again, slowly, enjoying the ride. The water stayed in place this time, and I arrived safely on the other side. Okay, I'm just going to read one more. I write political poems, but they're kind of subtle, and I don't think people realize that they are political. And this poem is called 7 Ways of Looking at Starlings, and I'm sure you are familiar with 13 Ways of Looking at Blackbirds by Wallace Stevens, which is a poem that always greatly irritated me because I always wanted to know what kind of blackbirds. But of course, the poem is really about perspective, his poem. It's about perspective. You know, the blackbirds sort of make you notice the other things that are with the blackbirds. So it doesn't really matter. But I decided I was going to write a poem about real blackbirds, starlings. And you may have noticed a few weeks ago in the Norman transcript on the back page under the weather with the little drawings by the children, there was a headline that said, "Worse than roaches?" And it was about starlings. In the 19th century, in the late 19th century, a Shakespeare Society in New York City had decided that they were going to release in the United States every bird ever mentioned in Shakespeare. And they released in the 1890s 9 European starlings. They are not native to this country. Today, there are millions of starlings. These are those sort of ugly blackbirds. They make all kinds of noises. They're not the great big ones. They're little, bigger than sparrows, but medium size. And sometimes they look like they're wearing sort of tweedy coats. And they extend from Alaska to Mexico now. And by the way, it is now legal to kill them. So if you have a way to do it, feel free. Most migratory birds, no, but starlings are different. 7 ways of looking at starlings. 1, like the poor, starlings are always with us, huddling in their black tatters, shifting from foot to foot, gossiping among one another, waiting at our feeders for a handout. 2, I hear the lyrical lilt of the Baltimore Oriole, but my binoculars home in only on starlings. The trees ring with the cries of cedar waxwings, but I see only starlings again. 3, immigrants from Europe, opportunists and entrepreneurs, starling sees all the good real estate from the more colorful natives. 4, the starlings either want the downy woodpecker's hollow tree, letting him work for weeks to make the entrance hole, or else they crave the newly laid eggs. Like so many invaders, starlings are self-righteous practitioners of genocide. 5, inspired by tales of talented jackdaws, I try to teach my caged starling to talk, but he will only cheep and squawk. I decide to set him free. 6, an accomplished mimic, the starling chuckles like a robin, repeats flicker, 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 and imitates the hunting cry of the red-tailed hawk, scaring away all smaller birds with his mockery. His native tongue, however, is as rough and rusty as he looks. 7, why do starlings take so many baths? Because they're dirty birds.